Hi everybody. In this video I will be showing you how to do some of the exercises for Lab 9 Geohazards for parts 2 and 3, the Google Earth exercises. So you can see my screen here. I'm in Brightspace. Might look a little bit different for you all. But here are all of the lab materials for this week's lab. So I have the Word document, Lab 9. I have 3 PDFs. Geohazard cities, geohazard maps, and the geohazard map legend. This is all for part 4, so this is the last part of lab. If you scroll down a little bit, you have a bunch of KMZ, KML files for Google Earth. These are all of the layers that we're going to be using for this week's lab. So I just want to briefly show you how to download these layers and load them into Google Earth. So let me go back to my Google Earth. Turn this off. Okay, so I've started a folder. So I'm just going to show you how to download one of the layers. I already have 4 of them downloaded, so I'm going to show you how to download the last one. So I've had the tsunamis, volcanoes, earthquakes, the plate boundaries. So I am missing the deadly earthquakes. So I'm going to do that. Go back to... Okay, and so the way you do this, I'm going to download this deadly earthquake file. I'm just going to drop down, download. Okay, so this might be different on your computers. You might have to go to your downloads folder and find it. Mine is conveniently located right at the bottom of my Google Chrome, so I'm just going to simply click on it. Okay, and you give it a second. And it'll pop up in my temporary places folder down here. Okay, I'm going to drag this layer into my geohazards lab so that they're all together. Okay, and so now that it is saved in my places, in the my places folder. Okay, so I'm just gonna move my face a little bit. Okay, so if it's zoomed in a little bit funky, just zoom out. Zoom back in so you can see. Okay, let me just reorient. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to turn off this borders in places layer for a quick second. Turn off. Okay, so now I have blank canvas Google Earth. I have my geohazards lab here with all 5 of the layers that I'm going to be working with for this lab. And again, you can rename them anything you want. For example, this layer that I just downloaded are deadly earthquakes. I want to rename it. Just right click, rename. You could rename it whatever you want. Okay, so if I turn on all of these layers and give it a second, sometimes it's a little slow. There we go. Okay, so I have turned on all of the layers that I'm going to be using in this lab. So you will see different symbols correlating to different layers. So for example, if you want to play with these layers, you can turn them on and off to see what they look like. So I like to just turn them all off and then play with one layer at a time. So for example, I'm going to flip my deadly earthquakes on and off. Okay, so now that symbol are little red dots on my map. Okay, that is going to show me the locations of all of the deadly earthquakes. Okay, same thing with tsunamis. So I'm going to keep turning that layer on and off just so I can get familiar with where these locations are. Okay, so now I have little yellow squares. These are the locations of all of the tsunamis. Okay, and then the same with the other layers. These 2 layers here, the volcanoes of the world and the USGS magnitude 5.4 greater earthquakes, are a little bit different. So if I click on volcanoes of the world, okay, it will show me 2 types of triangles. So I have red and I have a teal color. So what do the 2 colors mean? If you go to the drop down arrow of this layer here, and a drop down arrow, you see two layers within this layer: Holocene volcanoes and Pleistocene volcanoes. Okay, and again, just play with these and see what happens. Okay, so when I turn off the Pleistocene volcano layer, I'm left with the red. Okay, so the red are all of the Holocene volcanoes, right? Teal, all of the Pleistocene. Okay, so you can turn these layers on and off, okay, depending on which ones you want to see. Okay, and then the same, I'm going to get rid of this. Same with the earthquakes. Okay, I'm just turning these layers on and off just so I can familiarize myself with what each layer represents. Okay, so now my earthquakes, just plain old earthquakes, nothing deadly or anything, you see that it's color-coded by depth. Okay, so if I zoom out and see the rest of the world, and let's go scroll down to a fun place like South America, you see all of these colors here. So we have yellows and oranges, we have greens, blues, purples, reds. These all correlate to different depths. Okay, so you're going to be asked a couple of questions about what this depth means and why there are different earthquake depths, and why we have really deep earthquakes almost in the middle, not quite the middle, but on the, let's see, where are we? The west coast, but slightly more inland. Okay, so you're going to be asked a couple of questions about that. And then our last layer, which is the layer we're going to keep on for most of this exercise, are our plate boundaries. Okay, and so here they are. Blue is going to represent our convergent boundaries. Okay, red is going to be our divergent boundaries, and green is going to be transform. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's outlined in the lab for you, but here they are. I'm telling you what they mean, and if you zoom around the globe, you can see where these plate boundaries are. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So these are all the layers for Lab 9. Okay, and then I'm going to quickly walk through just the first part with the volcanoes. So if I pull up Lab 9, and I'll scroll back to part 2. Okay, so we've already gone through the layers. It tells you to download the volcano layer first. If you download all 5 of them at once, that's fine too. Just turn off the other layers so it doesn't get too busy and confuse you. Okay, so part 1, you are supposed to navigate to Mount St. Helens. So you can either do this a couple ways. You can type in Mount St. Helens, or you can copy and paste this latitude and longitude right in the search bar. So that's what I'm going to do. Go to search, copy paste, search it. Okay, it's going to take me there. It's going to zoom me in a lot. Okay, so just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so this is Mount St. Helens, which is cool. And if you turn on your volcano layer, okay, a little triangle will pop up. And we have both layers, Holocene and Pleistocene, on. And this is a red triangle, so this is a Holocene volcano. And if you all remember your geologic timescales, and if you can look on the guides, you can figure out which one is older. So we are, you can see this. There we go. Holocene and Pleistocene. So Holocene is going to be younger than the Pleistocene volcanoes. Okay, what's cool about this layer is if you click on the actual triangle where it says St. Helens, it'll give you a nice summary of this volcano. Okay, so it tells you what kind of type it is. It tells you the summit elevation in meters, so just be careful if your Google Earth is in feet versus meters. Just make sure that you're looking at the correct system of measurement. It tells you all about the volcano, and you can click on the Smithsonian volcano information. It'll take you to Smithsonian Institute of Volcanoes website, which is really cool. Okay, so play with those layers. Again, I'm just going to remind everybody how to show this mountain in 3D. So when I search for this volcano, it will take me to map view, right? So I'm hovering over the volcano, looking down on it from a plane or a satellite. I want to see what it looks like in 3D, which is really cool. I just want to zoom in a little bit, and then I'm going to just click this arrow pointing up, right? And it's going to start to tilt my view, right? So I'm not quite looking down on it, but I'm looking at it in a horizon type of view. So I'm just clicking this button here. It's tilting my view. You might have to drag it a little bit, zoom in. Now you can see the volcano in 3D. Okay, what's even cooler about this tool when you can see it in 3D is right now I'm looking north. So I'm looking at the volcano head on in a north directing view, right? But what's neat is when I turn my compass around and I want to look at the back of the volcano, you can see that the elevation is a lot lower looking south than you are looking north, right? So you can see that there's a crater right in the center, and let me turn this around a little bit more. There you go. And you can see where that volcano blew, right? It blew right at the side of the volcano when this Mount St. Helens erupted, right? And you can see that via Google Earth, which is neat. So this is why this 3D tool is really useful, because you can see how the elevation changes on this volcano, looking north, looking south, east to west, etc. If you zoom out and you want to explore the base, you can see some alluvial fans, you can see some rivers draining at the flank of the volcano. So it's really neat. So play with the zoom, play with the 3D features so you can look at the volcano and get a better visual of what this volcano actually looks like. Okay, so again, that's just the 3D option. Okay, I'm going to put it back to north. Okay, so the questions, the first couple of questions ask you to look at the maximum height elevation of the volcano above sea level in feet and the base elevation of the volcano. So you can do this a couple ways. If you click on this, it'll actually give you the elevation in meters, so you'll have to convert that to feet. If you turn on, let's see if this does this, the places layer down at the bottom, borders and labels, there we go, borders and labels is the one. It'll give you some peaks. Okay, so this is why Google Earth is neat. So it'll give you some peaks. So here we have these little mountain symbols when we turn on our borders and labels layer here at the bottom, and it'll give you Mount St. Helens. And it'll actually give you an elevation profile already here. Okay, so you don't have to make one exactly at this point. And it'll give you the volcano profile, which is very cool, and it'll show you how tall this volcano is. Okay, so here it has both options, meters and feet, so it's about 8,300 feet tall. Okay, so there's a couple of ways. Another way you can figure out how tall this volcano is you can just hover over the highest point of the volcano. And again, this is where your 3D option is going to help you, because you can see, wow, this is the highest point right here. Okay, somewhere around this area. And if you look down at your elevation at the bottom, which changes where your cursor is, you can see how tall it is. Okay, so again, I'm getting 8,300 feet at the top of this mountain. Okay, so there's a couple ways you can do that. You can also look at the base elevation the same way. Okay, so you just drag your mouse over to the base and get the base elevation that way. Okay, you can also use your measurement tools up here to also figure that out. Okay, so lots of different ways that you can mess with the elevation. Okay, so these are the first few questions. Just looking at the volcanoes, getting the maximum height, getting the base, getting the relief, and getting the base width. Again, you can use your ruler tool here, show ruler, to get measurements. Okay, and I'm just going to, and this is cool because it actually goes over the volcano and gets a profile going to show you all this elevation like so, and you can see how wide the volcano is, etc. So play with these tools. Clear, I don't want that. Okay, get rid of it. So this is where your tool, where your ruler tool is. Okay, so that should walk you through most of part 2. Okay, there are a couple questions after you make these measurements and look at your different volcanoes. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, so comparing Holocene versus Pleistocene volcanoes. So again, I will go back to my layer and I can just play with this. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so again, I have both of my layers checked on. I want to see differences between the Holocene and Pleistocene volcanoes. So I'll just play with these layers. I'll turn them on. I'll turn them off. I'll make my observations. See how many volcanoes you have versus Holocene versus Pleistocene. So I'm seeing a lot of really teal Pleistocene volcanoes. Those seem like there are more of those in the Holocene. Okay, so that's an observation I've made just right now. Okay, so it asks you a couple of questions about that. Again, just play with the layers, turn them on and off. Okay, so for part 3, you're really doing the same type of activities, but with earthquakes. So I'm going to turn off my volcano layer because I don't want that right now. And then I'm going to do the same thing, but with earthquakes. Okay, so the first question is going to ask you to turn on your earthquake layer. You're going to turn it on. It might ask you a question about the tsunamis. So see where your tsunami layers are. Again, it helps to check these on and off, just so I can see. Okay, so I'm seeing them in this area. I'm seeing some here, etc., etc. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this whole thing because it's going to be pretty redundant. But just keep turning on these layers on and off and just making your observations so you can see them really clearly. That should be it. If you have any other questions about how to download these layers, if they're giving you problems in any way, if you have any technical difficulties, just please email me so I can help you as quickly as I can. Okay, and I hope you all have fun with it. This is, again, this is real data. Okay, so this is data that scientists use to solve real problems of the world. Okay, so this is all available to you to play with. Okay, so have fun with it. And that's all I've got, so I'm signing off.